Proportional Response, Book 1. Chapter 25, Part 3, The Edge of Change. Kaz rubbed his cheeks where his wives had kissed him. I am going to pay for that later. But if the humans are right. Who am I kidding? Of course the humans are right. He looked down to see Henry rush onto his platform and slap the doors override. The man wasted no time but started talking. Faster than might be considered, seemingly given the nature of the vote they intended to take. Even as his platform rose to take the position that had become customary for all speakers, as he called the session to order. The formalities dispensed with, he gave the room a broad smile. Today, my fellow sapients, is a historic day. One which will go down in history and be remembered as the day that the fundamental fabric of the League changed, and the day it finally began to live up to the ideas which were supposed to be its foundation. Today, we shake off the yoke of Sultan control which has slowly strangled all of your nations and end the economic drain they have been to your economies. Your presence here will live on in history. Your courage in casting your vote will ring from one side of sapient space to the other. To you, all of you on every world, who are watching the broadcast of these proceedings, pay heed and stand tall. You will be able to tell your descendants you were there, you watched it happen. The crimes of Kilantar, currently the Prime Minister of this League, are myriad and have been explored in depth. They have been debated at length in this chamber, and many of the accusations against him have become common knowledge to even the least informed sapients of the League. Every ambassador here has reviewed these charges and listened to the counsel of their governments and their legal experts as to whether or not they have been proven sufficiently for conviction. Therefore, I propose that taking the time to go through all of these charges, to highlight and expound on all of the breaches of the Prime Minister, again, would be a waste. To that end, ambassadors, all of you have been provided with the edited recording of all of the sessions, public and secret, where the vote of no confidence for Kilantar has been debated. The edits done to the recordings were to cut out extraneous pontification, speeches which were made simply to fill time, and to remove material which this council determined had been presented in contravention with this body's rules of evidence, or which otherwise did not deserve to be entered into the official record. My first motion is that we release that edited proposal to the public now, that our deliberations may be considered to be open and public for all time. Henry hit the buttons to call for the vote, and Kaz pressed his own button the instant it came up. Kaz had to suppress a small bit of amusement as the board lit up, unanimously, in favor of the motion so fast it seemed the ambassadors were racing each other. Henry's eyebrows went up, and he turned to look at the large board on the chamber's back wall, which displayed the vote, as if he didn't believe what his own screen had showed him. Very well, and I thank you all. Next, I motion that we move forward with the vote of no confidence in Prime Minister Kilantar. As a primary charge on this motion, I wish to point the record toward Kilantar's proven involvement in the events regarding the theft of grain from humanity and the Confederated Worlds by the Zoltan's Zandro Republic, compounded by the crisis they precipitated by spreading that grain deliberately to so many others after they realized that the grain was infected. None of the facts about this incident, including Kilantar's involvement, are in dispute. The entire matter, including sanctions against the Zandro Republic and the clear evidence of Kilantar's direct involvement, even instigation, of the scheme, is a matter of public record. I put forth that Kilantar acted shamelessly, brazenly, and with malice aforethought in the interests of the Zandro Republic at the direct expense of the rest of the League. This is a specific and direct violation of the oath of office of the Prime Minister, and leads the Confederations of Worlds to put forth that we have no confidence that Kilantar is capable, nor willing, to faithfully execute the duties required of the Prime Minister of the League. What? Do I have a second? Caslor kept his face carefully neutral, hiding his amusement as over half the council raced to hit their buttons. Galen won, and the Thamizin took a moment to preen slightly. Someone else hit the button to call for a third, sparing Henry the need, and the Ruxer won that race. Henry favored the council with a hard smile. Very well, the motion to hold the vote carries. The line and the law require that we open the floor for those who wish to add their comments to the charges against Kilantar. I will submit to this august council that this has been done quite thoroughly over the last 2 years, and respectfully request that we allow the recordings from the last 2 years to be re-entered into the record at this time and serve as convicting arguments. Is there opposition to this motion?
Kaz considered hitting his own button, just to be contrary and stand out from the rest of the council. He might have too, if not for the commotion he knew was going on past the door behind him. We need to hurry through this, and everyone here seems to know it. I am a little surprised Jalat isn't interrupting just to draw things out. Her silence at this moment worries me, but it may be that she just wants to get her turn to speak faster. Jalat advanced on the speaker's platform as her supporters among the assembly pulled out weapons and added to the number of guns pointed at any idiot who thought they'd cause some sort of trouble. I may only control a little over a third of the voters, but I control just a hair under half the total votes of this assembly, and the unaligned voters were always easy enough for me to sway. Of course, now I have them all properly under my thumb. The Prime Minister finally rallied her senses and spoke loud enough to be heard even with her microphone turned down.
You are out of your mind, Jalat. This will not stand. You do not have the...
Enough. Jalat put her foot on the first step to the platform and signalled. The Prime Minister died where she stood. I so would have liked to have that satisfaction myself, but it would be unseemly for one in my new position to sully her hands directly. Gasps and shouts sounded throughout the chamber. No killing of voters outside the pits had been a hard and fast rule since the inception of the Republic. Today is a day of change throughout the galaxy. Everyone knows this. Only I and my select few know what the real change is, however. She took the standing stage and gestured for the body on it to be removed. A handful of her soldiers moved to clear the body and the mess. She took center stage and looked to the gaping hole of the door of opposition and gestured. Everyone turned to see why, and she heard gasps and shouts as comprehension finally dawned on the unenlightened. For centuries, this stage has been standing space only. Prime ministers have even had to step down because they couldn't stand anymore, and no allowances could be made. Now, however, today, everything changes. A few who saw the large chair being carried into the room tried to rally their fellows to fight. Some were subdued by those same fellows, but most died. Jalat waited for her seat as a hard grin spread down her snout and a new ceremony began. Henry nodded after a minute or two.
Very well. Thank you all for your cooperation. Again, to follow the line and letter of the law, we must allow anyone who wishes to speak in Kilintar's defense to address their fellow ambassadors. Normally presence in this chamber would be required, but Ambassador Jalat has requested that she be allowed to address the council remotely. As the person bringing the charges and operating under the special rules we have put in place the last couple of years, her request is being granted. Let history never claim that we, the Council of the League, did not allow Kilintar and the Exaltans every opportunity to defend themselves. Ambassador Jalat, you have the floor.
Henry hit a couple of buttons, and a hologram of Jalat, seated, showing her from her middle to just above her eyes, floated in the air next to the Prime Minute podium. Kaz peered at the hologram. Why is she not showing part of her head? That seems strange. Also, where is the chair she is sitting in? There is something about this. Jalat cast a look across the chamber that was nothing but pure, naked threat, then spoke in hard, clipped tone.
So, the lot of you think that your Deathworld humans are fit to run the League, and that you will simply cast yourselves away from the kind, sheltering, merciful leadership of the Exaltans, who have stewarded this League through crisis after crisis.
Most of which your kind directly caused, Kaz thought to himself, and a shuffling around the chamber let him know he was not alone in the thought.
And provided prosperity to all in times of calm.
It took all Kazla had to keep his expression neutral. More like bled everyone as dry as you could.
You and your beloved Henry can make all the protesting noises you want, but we Sultans deal in truth and facts, and so we are going to shine the lights directly on the deeper truth you are dancing around and outright denying. This vote is nothing less than you, the assembled individuals of this council, trying to push the Altans away from the leadership we have administered for centuries. We all know that none of you will countenance any Sultan being placed into the position if Kilintar is removed.
She shook her head slightly and cast her eyes down a bit in a gesture like a mother expressing sadness at a child's disrespect.
We, the Zoltans who have the duty to guide our kind, and yours, as the eldest race with the proper wisdom and even-handedness to administer justice and law to all sapient space, will not permit that. The law and line, as this cretin keeps parroting, demands that you be allowed to vote. So, do so. Just be aware that I am watching, and if you vote poorly...
The hologram zoomed in so that the hologram of Gillette showed only her red eyes.
There will be consequences.
The hologram winked out, and an angry mutter went through the crowd. Henry spoke.
I would be within my rights to request that Gillette's remarks be stricken from the record, as her words were nothing less than a threat of violence against this council. However, I will not do so. Let the record show that the Zoltan response to this vote of no confidence was not a defense of the actions or the person in question, but a threat against the council. My esteemed colleagues, the time has come. I call for a vote of no confidence in Prime Minister Kilantar Noman. Ambassadors, please register your votes.